Mr. Shoemaker began this trial in his opening statement by telling you that this wouldn't be a case of whodunit, but it would be why. And he just stood before you and explained why. The defense just told you that Amanda Colley is the reason why. That she is the reason this happened. She didn't give him the fortitude he needed. She didn't tell the truth. She wouldn't confirm what he already knew was true. It's her fault. That's what the defendant just told you. Whose fault is it that Lindy Dobbins is dead? Is that Amanda's fault too? He used words like emotional roller coaster. Absolutely. Divorces, injunctions, co-parenting, things that couples deal with when they're separated is emotional. It's what you do with those emotions that are important. Obviously, what Mr. Colley did is not appropriate. It's murder, and he's here, as we know, to get across his point that she's evil, she's a bitch, and it's her fault. That's what he just stood up here and told you. The defense talked in their closing about this back and forth. And you need to rely on your memories, but they characterize it as all the time they're together during this time. What was the evidence really? And who did that evidence come from? That evidence came from family members and the best friend and family friends of the defendant, Ron McCauley, Crystal Colley, Tammy Folsom, a little bit previous with Mike Dickens. Was it all the time? Crystal saw them together once between the separation, and that was on the 25th, when she just saw Amanda leaving Garrison. And Rhonda told you about that occasion too. Look at those text messages that the defense entered today. You'll see what was going on the 25th. On the 25th, the children were suspected of having lice. It's all this going on in those text messages. They're meeting up. They're exchanging information about the children during the day and later that night. They're co-parenting the best way that Amanda can, understanding that she wants no contact, she has an injunction, and this man refuses to acknowledge laws and rules. And here today, he wants you to buy into that. He wants you to not don't like what Amanda was doing. Don't like that she was having an affair, as was he, before their divorce was final. It's fine. Probably things that we all would say are not advisable. You may not like that as you sit there on the jury. But what he's asking you to do with the fact that you may not like what was going on is hold that against Amanda Colley and somehow minimize his responsibility legally for the premeditated murder of these two women. That's what he's asking you to do here today. The individuals that talked about this all-the-time contact, which we really only heard about the 25th this morning. Again, like I said, they're family friends, family members, and the best friend of the defendant. People with the most motive and bias for the defendant, people that were shown this morning to not be telling the truth and to have given inconsistent statements. Rhonda has no clue what guns she claims she put in that car because she didn't put them in her car, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. What did she say? Initially it was a .380, maybe it was a .45. Then she gave other statements, but she's very sure when she comes into court today, and until confronted with all those other previous statements, she's very sure it's the two murder weapons. You saw the demeanor and the testimony of those witnesses, and you are instructed to take that into consideration in weighing their testimony in this case. Mr. Shoemaker spent a bit of time talking about this voicemail. The voicemail, the butt dial that was left on Amanda Colley's voicemail during this time when he was at the house. The evidence, additionally, that shows that he went there to get those guns. And I'm going to turn it up, and I want you to listen to this voicemail again. That voicemail of his dad, his family member, calling him a moron, the same person that tried to stop him from doing these things. Mr. Shoemaker stood up here and said that those guns weren't in the car. Or those guns were in the car, excuse me. Those guns were in the car. He didn't go back to Southampton to get them. Mr. Shoemaker tried to make a point in saying that if that 14-minute call was what really set this off, he's saying it wasn't, of course. If that was what really set him off, well, the guns were in the car, so he would have just driven there. No, isn't the converse of that true? Why did he have to go home and get the guns? They weren't in the car, that's true. If the guns were just in the car, he would have gone over there. We know that's the last phone contact between Amanda and James. Something happened in the phone call, and he didn't just keep driving down 16 to the house. He had to go back and retrieve his guns. We know he went back. We have cell phone data to put him in the area. We have the voicemail putting him at that house with his family. Someone's calling him a moron as he ransacks that house and takes guns and ammunition out of that bedroom and gets into a car. Mr. Shoemaker talks about topping off with gas. Ladies and gentlemen, you will use your common sense, and we implore you to use your common sense when you go back in that jury room and talk. Do you top off? Keep in mind, Mr. Colley was driving all around to and from court that morning, so he didn't have some gas. Do you top off your tank of gas because you fully intend on going to work, just 10 minutes up the road from 210 in Jacksonville, or do you top off your tank of gas because you don't know when the next time it is that you're going to stop, and you need all the gas you need to get out of Dodge? Nobody tops their car off with gas. Their sister's car, as you pointed out, which isn't even his car, because I'm going to go 10 minutes up the road to Citibank and go to work. Mr. Shoemaker spent some time talking about the attempt charges in this case, the attempted murder against Lamar and the attempted murder against Rachel. And he told you that you couldn't find the defendant guilty of the attempted murder charges because he didn't, maybe, if you believe it, he didn't see them. Look at the elements that the judge instructed you on when you go back in the jury room. There's not an element that says the defendant must see the person. What are the elements? That he had the intent to kill, which we know he did, that he took an act beyond thinking of it, which he did when he shot through the back windows of that house, and he further shot his way into the closet, and that he failed to do so. Those charges have been proven beyond a reasonable doubt in this case, based on everything that's been presented to you thus far. Mr. Shoemaker also talked to you about burglary versus trespass. He's asking you to come back and return a verdict of trespass. Of course he is. Rules don't apply to him. Injunctions don't apply to him. Court orders forbidding contact, court orders forbidding him to go within 500 feet of a residence don't apply to him. So in his mind, this was just a trespass. Under the law, ladies and gentlemen, it's a burglary. You have the elements before you, and the elements are that the home was in possession of someone else, Amanda Colley, and that he entered with the intent to commit offenses therein. And you have those before you on those applicable charges and the various burglaries. Like I said before, he the defendant, he wants you to blame Amanda. He wants you to somehow take that blame and mitigate against his premeditated intent. The same things, the same scenario, him thinking that she was lying to him and not telling the truth, is the same situation which caused him to have the feelings towards her, the feelings of hate, the feelings that she's evil, the feelings that she's a bitch, all of the feelings, all of the motive that led him to all of his decisions on August 27th. On August 27th, he was the judge, the jury, and the executioner of Amanda's behavior. And subsequently after that, of Lindy's, when he found her instead of Lamar. He is now telling you to be that jury and not hold him to the law, but to judge her, Amanda Colley, for being with another man, even though he was with another woman, and not confirming it to him. Was this a difficult time for the Colleys? Absolutely. Was it emotional? Absolutely. I don't think anybody would argue that divorces in these scenarios are absolutely emotional, painful times. But what do most people do? If you're going to stay together, you go to counseling. You surround yourself with family and friends. You put distance between yourself and the other person. You get a divorce. You do things to move on. Not him. Not the defendant. Instead, he took everything out on Amanda Colley that day. Once it was confirmed in his mind that what he believed to be true was true, he couldn't live with it. He went there to hunt them down and kill them. And when he couldn't find Lamar, he found Amanda. He took it out on her once when he shot her. He took it out on Lindy when he found her instead of Lamar. And then he returned back. He found her alive. And in that instant, he chose to finish her off. Jury, judge, and executioner. All of this evidence shows his premeditation, and the state asks you to return a verdict in this case as charged as to all 7 counts as the evidence supports. Thank you.